Zaid, where is everybody today? Today there is class Monday, right? Yeah, okay.
Sending the link on.
Good morning, Alian. Good morning, Abdullah.
Morning, miss.
Good morning. Good morning. We'll just wait for another 4 minutes and then we would start. Good morning, Wes.
Miss, is this our last week or do we have classes next week as well?
But this module, you have class even in the next week. But next week, it's more over, yeah, you don't have goals. Yeah, so it's more like a seminar based in. But the lab is optional, and so if anybody just wants to have a last feedback for only for those who have not taken feedback, yeah.
Leon, please mute your mic.
Zaid, you're done with your submission. Alian, you're done with your submission, right? For the Khalifa University. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just wanted to just do a check. Okay. In the meantime, can you let me know if you're able to see the lecture slides uploaded for this week? The lab is what is got uploaded. The lecture is on process getting uploaded. So far you are all learning about diagrams, and now we are moving on to data analysis and visualization. So we will learn about what is this ETL, and this would be very much connecting to you to your second year modules, and then in your third year you have a module which is business intelligence. There you will learn about machine learning algorithms and the way you have to apply it. So these are the two ways. So in your year one, we are providing you a complete baseline to what is data analysis and how can I do this visualization in. Yeah. And today I would give you a link in and I would ask you to download a software as well. It's a free trial version software. And in your second year, I'll make you registered. You'll get a free access for 1 year and using the university ID card. So we have a tie-up at Tableau team, so you'll get access to it. Okay. So I believe we can start with the session to go in. So before I could start with the session, I would like to mention that the goals are graded. I think only for 4 students literally is pending. That will be done by today. But the remaining students, the goals are fully marked. The goals are marked till week number 9 in. So till week number 9, all your marking is completed. Is instructions clear? Okay, so you just have 2 more goals to be marked, and with that, your module grading for this module will be done. So, no, Shoaib. Shoaib, yours is too long to correct in, right? So I have to start from the first. Okay, so by today, tomorrow, you will get your grade, Shoaib. So there are 4 students, which is pending, but the remaining, all of it is already done. Okay, so let me share my screen. I believe you can see my screen now. And can you give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, miss, we can.
Okay, great. So we are now moving on to data analysis and visualization. And in the first part, you will learn about transform load in here. And the second part, you will learn about Tableau visualization. So Tableau is a tool which is used to visualize a data in. So in the first part, we would learn about data and its importance in why do you need so much of data and what if I don't make a sense to the data in? What is this data cleaning? What is the steps that is required for data cleaning in? What are the various tools that we normally use for data cleaning in? What are the platforms that we can apply data cleaning as well? And in the second part, once the data is all cleansed in, we would then apply using the tool Tableau to visualize it. We would learn about the importance of data visualization. What are some of the examples in there? And where all, and you would look at some of the use cases to where all it is being utilized, and literally it is being utilized so much in US, UK, and various scenarios in around the globe, and is something that you would be looking out in here. Now, let's look at the first part that we have. That is your data analysis. And let's start with different types of data analysis. So as the word itself, there are 4 types of data analysis, which is descriptive, predictive, diagnostic, and prescriptive. So I would like to take one example over here. And let's take a very layman example. Okay, you're going to the hospital and the first time you have a doctor's appointment. And what is the first thing that you go and do once you get the appointment to the doctor? That means you are within the room with the doctor. What is it you normally do? I want to ask this question to you. What is it you normally do once you go inside the room of the, doctor in? I don't want a quiet class. I want a class which is going to be interactive. You describe, exactly, yeah. So you literally tell your problems. You know what? I was having fever. I've got fever for 3 to 4 days and I'm going to have some issues going on right now. My throat is a little of itching around and this is all that you talk about, yeah. So you're describing your entire scenario, which is nothing but your descriptive analysis that we're talking about. Once you describe everything to it, and the doctor listens to it very carefully to it. And he says, you know what, if you don't take care of this, this would be the outcomes that you would have in the future in. And he starts to giving, he starts says, you know what, when did you have, he starts analyzing your situation. How many days this has gone by? What is the exact reason for it? Did you have something cold in? This is where your diagnosis is being done. And once this is all done, he says, you know what, you have a symptom of a viral fever, which is there. You take these medicines, have it for 3 to 4 days and let me know, come back to me if you still have problems in. So that is nothing but your prescriptive analysis that we're talking about. So where you are being told, do this and come back later. And so you're being diagnosed and then you're giving a prescription out over here. So descriptive, predictive towards the future, diagnostic, your problem being diagnosed out in, prescriptive is to this problem that you have, what is the solution that you have for this. So just to say in now technical words that we have, descriptive is nothing but we're dealing with the past data and to draw the conclusions and see what can be formed. So all your whatever you are presenting out from the past in is your descriptive in. Whatever I can forecast for the future is your predictive analysis in. And what is that I'm able to diagnose for the problems with the data is your diagnostic. And finally, combining all of this together, which gives you insights, the final one to go in is your prescriptive analysis in. Is this clear to you? Have you understood what is data analysis and types of data analysis? Yeah. Okay. Can I get response from the others as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is another way to say what is the data telling you in. So descriptive, what's happening in my business in. So normally this is very much used in. So when you go into the job role of a system analyst, okay, or a data analyst in, they would be doing the first job as descriptive. They would literally figure out why is this happening in. They will tell about what is likely to happen in the future if this is the kind of reasoning that you have gotten. And if this is the kind of it, what should I do to, or what should I do to, come out of it and see that I get a good sales around the year to go in. One very good example for this is, if you must have seen, let's take our, food delivery applications, which is Kita itself. Kita's main objective was to gain or get how will I compete with the market with the existing products? So its first step was the market should know me in. And what is that I'm going to exactly do to get this effective into the market in? So it kept introducing a lot of offers in the first, literally 50% is what, and it was trying to gain the name in the market in. Once the name in the market was all established in, its next job is to have more of the vendors connected to this application in. The more the vendors in, the more the demand would be reached out over here. And with this, what would happen is we can see that it gets reflected out. People get what are the objectives achieved out over here, and people are getting their product, company gets the product, there is a good amount of gain achieved in, and then they start using a lot of other strategies in how can they increase out the what is the more of the profit that they can have in here. So this is how they have moved from one level to that of the other end. Okay, now this is your goal in. So just like what I gave you an example, what is expected is you write an example and then explain the 4 types of data analysis in. So that like the way I gave you an example. So see to that, if you're referring to something in, do not forget about your references in. Okay. Let's now understand the difference between data analysis and that of reporting in. So there is a very common question, and this is a very common question for interviews as well. What do you mean by reporting and what do you mean by analysis in? So a report is something which the user would basically look at what has happened in the past in, yeah. So it gives a feel about, and as an analysis and you look at those of the past and to answer some of your questions out in here. Yeah. So analysis is needed out and it takes any steps to get the answers to the questions. It will look at whatever is the past data in. Reporting would just see it, what is being asked for. So if Falyan would ask me, what's the grade for CST 1310? Yeah. I would just pick up from the report and I would give him the grade in. But if I'm talking about analysis over here, I would say, okay, fine. Let me overall see what's the grade that is being achieved by this class in. So I would look from week number 1 till week number 11 to go in and then evaluate the goals that is being there so far and come to a conclusion out over here. Yeah. So reporting is more in a standardized way. But when you talk about analysis and we can have it in various ways depending on what's my requirement and my need. I can always have it customized as per the requirement in. But reporting is a standard process to go in. On the other hand, we can always have the reporting done using a tool which does not involve any kind of person like that of the analysis in. Whereas person is there for doing analysis. Like example, Zaid is the one who is doing this analysis. He will tell what all he did in this analysis and to give me that answer in. Reporting is inflexible, but analysis is completely flexible in because you can move around, you can go back to the past data, and if he does not get the answers to the past, he can go back to the years back and get the answers in. Is this clear to you? What do you mean by data analysis and that of data reporting? Any questions to this? Any questions in? Okay. All right. Now let's start with the process of data analysis. Thank you, Alian. The first step that you have is deployment. The second step is business understanding. The third step is data exploration. The fourth step is data preparation. The fifth step is data modeling. And the last step, which is data evaluation. And so these are your 6 steps that you have for your data analysis. Let's start with one by one to go in and let's understand it over here. Yeah. So first thing, when we want to understand, before I could, go ahead with it, yeah, I would go to the company and suppose if let's talk about the organization is Walmart. So Walmart is saying, what, I want to see what's my sales which I've achieved in 2022 to 2025 December. So then this is the person who is doing the analysis over here, or the data analyst over here, would say, what's your exact objective? What are you trying to achieve out over here? So he would list out all the objectives in, and then based on the objective mentioned in, he would try to analyze the business in, what's the goals in, what is the requirement that he really wants to achieve out over here. Once this is done, he would take those data and try to have the data completely explode out to whatever he has got from the past end. He would also verify the data in. So sometimes what happens is you have a lot of null values, and null values are something which cannot be taken and just being utilized just like that. You cannot use null values to have analysis done. Yeah. So you would have to delete them, have a good data cleaning done over here, prepare the data very well in. You cannot do a good data analysis if your values that you have. Example is like what I just said about the Walmart in. It's 2022 to 2025 December. This data is supposed to be a very large. If it is just like 20,000 rows, no, it cannot be that. It is not a good data set. You need to have a good data. You will look at whether the data that you've got is really being authorized enough that you can take in, whether the data is really in confidential or not. You will also check whether the availability of the data that you have is really meeting to those requirements or not. Once all of this is done, you are prepared, you're cleaning, you've cleaned with your data, you've integrated from various components in, and then you start applying what's known as your data modeling in. Now, data modeling, right now, we have several tools that we have in, and one of the tool that we normally use in Tableau itself. So this data is just taken out and we try to see which one is this. The second one is Weka is another tool that we have. So these are tools that is allowing us to have the data model. We build upon a model in and we assess the model as well. Then we evaluate out from this modeling that we have applied. What is the result that I can literally derive from here? Is there any kind of errors which I've gotten over and think somewhere from the current step to the next one in? And finally, I do a deployment which is done out over here, which will give me a final report and I can view my entire project in. So these are your 6 steps that you have. So first of all, have an understanding, explore, prepare, do the modeling, evaluate it, and finally deploy it. And this deployment is what is going to be used in the next phase of it. So next, when they are going to do the next run of it, they would say, okay, fine, we have done with up till 2025 December, and let's start from January 2026 and let's do the next year of it. Or I can do it for 2 years. I can do it. You can do it for, if I want to compare out, because as the CEOs and they are more of a bothered to see as graphs and charts to see where is their company going. Is there any kind of growth not happening in, or is there any kind of graph literally not spiking up, or is it declining in? Their main goals are these. So this is all being checked using this way in. Is this clear out? Is this all clear?
Yes, miss.
All right. All right. So now you are all joined into the BIS program and that to the BCDA program. And this is where data analytics in. Yeah. So let's first understand the word data analytics in. The word data analytics is a very big umbrella. You cannot say, I'm only doing analysis. No, it's not like that. It's one big umbrella which has got, whether you gather, you can have the data taken in, I can get insights, I can generate reports, I can apply algorithms in. What can I do based on the business requirements is data analytics moreover. So that is why we say it's a very, very big umbrella. And now you have even your LLM models, which is getting applied in here. So as the importance of data analytics, you can gather your insights, you can generate your reports in, I can do a good market analysis in, and I can improve my my business requirement as well. So analysis over here is based on what is my current requirements and what is my customer expectations. I'm able to improve out using that of your data analytics. So these are your 4 steps that you can do with that of your data analytics. And now, normally this is a question in how can I become a data analyst? And please understand this carefully. You can apply for these jobs in after you've completed your first year. If you want to join into internship programs, which is about junior data analyst in, you can definitely apply for it. Okay. So apply for it as a job for this to get in. You can apply over here about whatever you have gained your experience in. You can put your portfolio in a way that you have done these kind of charting over here, so you can put your insights of what you have done in Tableau in. And in next week I would give you a data set as well. You want to still explore out, and then to this aligned, I've already have aligned to this SAS certification. If you could remember, there is visual analytics in. So this is something that I would say, please see to that you complete this certification, which is your phase 1, which is your beginner edition, and the second one, which is your advanced edition that you have. So both of this has to be aligned to this, which will help you to go into the job role of a data analyst in. Now, let's look at how is that you can go into the job role of a data analyst in. So as a data analyst, you are providing or you're trying to have value to your company in. But how would you provide this value in? You would have your interpreting being done, you have your analyzing, and then you have your results or findings being created out in here. So this is what you're trying to achieve in. So first of all, I would see from where is my data that is getting extracted in. So I could use MySQL or SQL, or I could use MongoDB, which is also a database that I have. Then I would try to analyze the data in, and then I would try to generate the report out on here. So these are the steps that is being required out. So this is what you normally do in the industry. So company would say, okay, fine, go and take the data and try to generate the data and look at what are you getting out. I want a report to be generated in. So I would show you how do you do this in, on your next week's class. You can see that I would show how we would perform it on Tableau tool. We would work onto a data set, and then we can see how you can become a data analyst. But this is more of all the structure that you have in order to become a data analyst in. Next is, what are some of the examples that I can see over here? Now, let's look at one of the examples that you have here. And this is a data set that you have. If you look at this data set over here, you can see that these are all your headers that you have. Yeah. And these are all the values that you have for your data set. If you see here, this data set has got attributes of house number, husband age, husband income, wife income, number of bedrooms, electricity units, gas, number of children, internet connection, what's the mode, is the house being rented, speaking language, decade of the house being built in. So this is your attributes, and all of this is your values which you have in here. Yeah. Now, when I'm going to take this, if you see here, some of the values are zeros in, and some of the values you might see at times. What happens is, when we're extracting this data, it might be just empty. There is nothing in, there's no value at all being there. So as a part of data cleaning, we cannot take those empty values just like that. If I see too many values of empty, I would just delete the particular row in, which is also a part of data cleaning in. If I see that I have duplicate values being generated out, even that will be completely deleted out, because that also cannot be taken. So at the end of it, before we start with your data analysis in, I would have to clean it And while I'm done with my cleaning, I have to remember all these steps, because if I don't clean my data rightly in, whatever insights I'm trying to gather over here, it's all not going to make any kind of sense. I'm just working with some data in, but this data will not have some impact towards what I'm trying to generate a report and show it to my manager out in here. Yeah. Now, let's look at what are the normal things that you can do in here. And like example over here, we are having a problem statement which is being told to us that I need to find out what's the min, what's the maximum, what's the average age of the wife, and what's the median, what's the quantile, what is the variance, and what is the standard deviation for husband's income. What is the frequency of number of children and number of bedrooms in. So this is my problem statement in. So what is the first step that I would do? I would take this data set which is there here, and then I would try to apply my math, what I've learned, or moreover, it's statistics that we're trying to look at. So I can directly say I can go to a particular column or the attribute in, and then I can apply over here the formula which you have. Like over here, I can apply min and to the value of, if I go to the attribute wife age, and if I give min into the bracket and I drag in the entire column in here, I can get the value of min. So what is the minimum age? What's the maximum is something I can calculate in. And if I use the formula of average, I can again calculate the value of the age as well. And so is your medium, quantile, variance, and standard deviation. This is something that you would learn in your second year, a bit of it, and your third year, a detailed one of it. Yeah. And then from here, I can plot the data into CN. What's that I'm able to see? What is for the entire data set? So this is how we are. So normally the managers or would give, your reporting manager would say, you know what, we're actually having a problem statement of this. We're trying to get some insights over here. So please start working onto the data set. So they will give you a problem statement. It's not that just randomly you have to just start with it from the scratch. No, they would give you a problem statement like this. What is it they're trying to analyze in? And you are supposed to do that. You have to use your statistics in here and calculate those values out in here. Is this understood?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get all the responses? Abdullah. Okay. Okay, great. Good. Now this is a example. Excellent. I'm so happy that everybody is responding. I love this domain so much that I can talk a lot about it because I work so much into this domain again. So cybersecurity and data analytics is something which I'm so curious to learn every day, and to literally I have applied and done so much of research into this. And these two domains are something which will always go as a very big demand in the market in. Okay. All right. Now let's look at this that you have, which is about data analytics services that you have. If you see over here, where all data analytics can provide you as a service in, that is what we're trying to look out over here. So this was being seen by American Institutes for Research in, and they have said that we can have it for data collection services. We can look at the quality of the data and I can view it. I can have for policy documents as well. Now, this is something which I want to say. Why can I use this for policy documents? And sometimes we have to prove, why am I making this policy in? You cannot directly say, I'm going to make a policy today and have this completely launched to the market. You cannot have that. So for that, you will have to always have the policy being proved out. So that is what we're talking about, policy, how the policy analytics are being used, and that can be used for your decision making. We're also using it for social media and digital outreach in, and also for enterprise analytics solutions as well. So these are all the domains that you can have your data analytics services in. Now, this is what I would like to say is these are all your tools that you have. Can anybody let me know any of the tool that you have worked ever in your life? Any tools over here listed out over here? Any tool that you can connect to? Exactly, yes. I was just expecting this, yeah. So Python, and it is being used so much in now, yeah. So Python is one of the tool that you can always use in, and it is used so much. R programming is something moreover used for statistics and data modeling, and this is something that you would learn into the module uh, data modeling for enterprise. There is one of the module that you have in. I think it's in your second year, term one, if I'm not wrong, where you will learn about R programming. So that's where you can connect in. And this is what I just said about Tableau in. This is something which I would teach you. We would have a detailed version of this in your second year and your third year in. But in your year one, we just want to give you a start in. So that's where we're talking about in SAS, which I just like how Allianz said in. Allianz is already given enrollment for this. This is something which I would say get always aligned to industry in. So right now you can complete easily visual analytics, so see to that you are, this is again a programming language and particularly used as a very good tool for analyzing your data in. You also have more tools, which is your Microsoft Excel, RapidMiner, also have your NIME, you have OpenRefine, Apache Spark. NIME is taught in your bachelor's in some of one of the module in, and in your master's program. We have launched a new master's program, which is more related to information system, data and that of your management. So we have connected it out. So there we will learn about more of NIME in so more data. If you're going into the domain of only as a data analyst, you want to have IT and database applied, and you want to go into management areas, and it's a very good master's program that we have launched in. And I would be also teaching onto this program. And now let's look at the next one, which is about data quality. So you have learned about data analytics importance, what are the services that we have, and why we're talking about all of this, so much of it. But let's understand how do you say data quality in? How will I ever say my data is a good data in? So these are the what I would say as a metric that you have to fulfill when you have to say a data is a good one to go in. So it should be meeting the accuracy, it should be meeting the completeness, consistency, relevance, validity, and that of your uniformity. And so all of this have to be met in, is what I would say. So unless you meet all of it together, you cannot say your data is a good one. And let's understand now, what do you mean by exactly accuracy? What do you mean by completeness in? Yeah. So let's look at data accuracy, first one in. So is my data which I have in? So many a times what happens is, let's take one of the example is, you must have seen several platforms giving you surveys in. Please complete the survey. If you do the survey, you will get this and you will have a golden opportunity. So this time what happened is, when I was taking the flight from Dubai in, what happened is they have given can you please complete this survey, and you can there was a, we support UAE, there was something like that. Okay, so we were told to complete the survey, and if you complete the survey, your picture would appear onto the screen over there, into the map of UAE in. Yeah. But what I was looking at is, I was very practically understanding over here about how well they have taken this, and their objective is nothing but to take how many people are there in UAE, how many people are with UAE in. That was, but the data that is going to be generated out over here is definitely, it's a good data, and because it's the accuracy level is a good one. But on the other hand, if I'm taking a data which is directly just a local version of the data, which I would say, or just taking randomly from anywhere out, just to get some, maybe one example is, if Zaid is just doing a survey in of 5 questions in, it is not a good one to go in there. The data quality is not a good one. But if Zaid is doing a data, he's doing a survey of
25 questions and he's sending out to 100 people in. This data is a valid data in, yeah, or 50 people, that is a valid data in. So here I can draw a value out in. And completeness is nothing but the degree to which all the required measures are known in. And consistency is about where am I getting this data from in. So which database system am I using? A MongoDB? Am I using a SQL for that matter? In relevancy is sometimes you have data which is just collected, but it is not making any sense to your actual context or your problem statement. So are your data which you have collected out, is it really relevant or not? And then you have your validity in. So how well your to degree to which the data in the question conforms to the rules or constraints that you have is nothing but your validity that you have. And then you have your timeliness, that is I do not have to collect a data. If I'm trying to do a survey this year, I would not collect a data of 1995 and then do a validity check to it. It does not make any sense out because we're looking at up-to-date information. As fresh the data is, what is it information that I can gather at and do over here is what we're talking about, timeliness. And then you have your uniformity in. Now, for having this uniformity in, what they have done is we have several platforms. I will show you these platforms in a while. We have Data World is one of them. We have Kaggle is one of them. We have websites from US. You have websites from UK. There are open source data sets available out. Yeah, of course, it is going to be defined across the region in, but these data sets are standard ones to go in. Even if you want to see about, so I'm doing a research related to climate predict detection in, and this research requires a lot of data across the globe in. So when I'm working with this data in, I'm going to use it, data sets which is like from government based in, which is publicly available. However, it is government related data. And so this is what I'm just saying out to you as well. The data has to be consistent, data has to be relevant, it has to be valid enough, and it should be complete as well. So these are the qualities that has to be met for your data quality in. And once your data quality is all met, then you would start with the process of your data cleaning in, which involves identifying, deleting out. If you see any kind of inconsistencies in the database, you would remove that as well. After this is all done, you would see that, all your data cleaning is all done. You would take this data, you would import this data. I would show you how would you do this in. If I want to merge data sets, I can do that. If I feel that something is missing out, I would delete the particular and then rebuild my data in. I can have a standardization, I can do a normalization in. If there is any kind of duplication, I would do a deduplication. So remove the duplicates out, verify everything in, and finally create my data, which is a final version, which I'm doing in here. Once my data is all clean in here, then I can directly visualize my data in. So these are the two things that you can achieve in with proper data cleaning. Your data is all valid. Money will flow and business will grow. And this is very important in here. And you have a good data. So remember, data cleaning means data quality being fully achieved. What is data quality? All of your criteria which we just discussed about, accuracy, completeness, relevance, validity to the data, and all of that will be met. So if your data is all valid, automatically you would see a business growing out and money will automatically flow in. But if you're using a data which is completely biased in, for your own understanding, your complete data will look very fancy enough. You will always feel everything is good in. But on the other hand, you would see that a lot of money, time, and reputation is all being lost in this case that you have. So without a proper data cleaning, you cannot do, you cannot achieve your business goal in short. Now, these are all the benefits that we have for data cleaning, which includes your time and money being saved in, increased productivity that you have in, you have your business completely growing out, you have a good decision making being done, and your reputation in the market. Why is this reputation so much of importance? Once you gain a reputation, all that you have to do is keep up the name in the market. That's the main goal. But to get to that level in is something which is going to take you a tug of war, literally. It is not so easy in. So that is what we're talking about, maintaining a reputation in. So first you have to get your name in. One example to this is when Teams was being used in, most of the organizations were using Teams, but Teams was not so much used in when we look at universities and schools, and it was not so much utilized in. But during the COVID time, they have gained so much importance in the market. Now everybody has by default Teams itself, whether it's industries, whether it's about education institutions as well. So this is where you're talking about gaining the name in the market in. This is something which I would do it later in. And I want to pick up on, now we have learned so much about data cleaning. We looked at data quality. We looked at why data analytics is so much of important. But now I really want you to understand, how do you start with ETL? ETL stands for extract, T stands for transform, L stands for load in. Okay. So extract, transform, load in. So how do you start in? So before you start with your data, first is your step is extraction. So extraction is where am I getting the data from? What is my data source, which I'm talking about in here? So extract, transform, and the load. Let's look at the picture out over here. So extract is from various data sources. Maybe I have taken the data. If I have to talk about the entire BIS BCDA program year one, I would take the data for CST 1310, 1320, 1330, or CST 1340. So these are all the places which I can extract my data in. Once my data is all extracted, I would transform them into a useful format which is required in. Once this is all done, finally, I would load it into my final database in, where it is nothing but I would give it to the data warehouse, which is the final step. And from here, I can directly draw my insights in. So all that is, so always remember, this data extraction is from multiple sources. The staging area is given so that everybody who is trying to fetch this data, this is like data warehouse is nothing but the one where your data is being put and everybody can use from this. So it's a standard process where everybody has a standard view of the data, not that each one is creating in their own way of it. So we don't want it like that. We want it to be transformed and loaded in. So this is where you're loading, or you could say the entire transformation done. And finally, you're trying to draw the insights from here in. On the other hand, we have ELT as well. So I'll talk about that. So this is how we normally do it in the industry in export, transform, and finally load it. And from here, you're able to have your insights being generated out in. But the detailed steps in here, like data extraction, just like I said earlier, everything, whatever it is extracted. So maybe you will have multiple formats when you're extracting from multiple places, but all of them have to be converted to single format. You cannot have multiple formats when you are doing over here. Transformation, if any kind of now, where Walmart will say, you know what, these are our validations that is required. These are our business rules that we have to clearly define. Once this is done, the data is fully transformed out over here, and finally it is loaded into the data warehouse, where everybody who's registered can directly access, can work over here directly being there. So that is what this phases that you have in here. On the other hand, when you look at the types of processing that is there in the ETL tools, is data, the pipeline, and the component in. Data over here is one file is broken down into small files. Why are we doing this? Because when I do it in one, it will take a lot of time. But if I do it, if I break it down into smaller chunks, and I can do all of them in parallel. And once this is done, I would have each one of them running in a pipeline to go in, and finally have the merge of all of them together at the final step. And so all of them could be merged towards the last end, which becomes a component over here in. Any questions to ETL before I could go with the transformations of ETL? Can I get the response from the others? All right. Now for ETL transformations in, again, you could have cleaning, format revision, you could have restructuring, and also deduplication in. You can also apply advanced ones. So these advanced ones are something which you will learn in the second year. I would teach you filtering in, I would teach you joining, that is merging two values in. You can also split it out. You can also have it derived. Derived is nothing but I take two rows or two columns in. I take those attributes. From there, can I have a new value being derived? Can I create a new attribute itself, combining two values in? And then can I have it fully summarized and integrated together to get a new insight out of it? Yeah. So I would be teaching you in the next week's lab. So for that, I would also give you the link, just like I said earlier. 1 minute. What did you ask for? Mrs. Database normalization related to this, and do we have to? No, 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 no. This is not something which you have for your coursework. No. Okay, now we have discussed earlier ETL. Now, what is ELT? The same thing, but this time it will be extract, load, transform in. Okay, so now there are places where you would have to use ELT. There are places where you would have to use ETL as well. Okay, so the ETL is related to data warehousing. Yeah, moreover in where the data is moreover is data is lifted and shifted to an entire repository in. But when you talk about ELT, it is first extract, then it is load, and then only you are having your transformation. So depending on what is your transformation that you want to achieve in, you would use ETL or you would use ELT in. So ELT will extract, load it from the repository that you really want to have it, and then have your transformation done into a validation or a business rule that you want to define. ETL is extract, transform, and then only finally you will have a loading being done into your final repository. That's the main difference that you have in here. So this is your ETL to what we have discussed earlier. So these are all the places that you can have your extraction done. I have a staging area and I have a transformation done to the business rules and confirmations being there. Finally, I have my data being loaded into my data warehouse. From here, I draw my insights in. On the other hand, when I talk about ELT, I have it extracted. I transform it out over here again in, yeah. But this time, this is a loading being done. And then I have a transformation. And from here, I have my insights being generated out in here. So this is what I said, depending on your context in, this is what you would apply in. And that's the difference between your ETL and ELT. Now, a common question that you could have in your mind, which is moreover commonly used in, we normally use ETL moreover than ELT in, because they prefer this because it can be directly, you have a standard one over here in a data warehouse, and from here you just need to have your insights. So this is a normal strategy that you have in your when you're working with your data sets. Okay. And then I want to pick up on your data, cleaning in more in. So as expected in, we can see that since data is everywhere, a common question is, do I really have a good amount of jobs in? From the time of 2020, which is the time of COVID time onwards in, You can see organizations have put a lot of effort on data analysis, and these numbers are right now slowed that you're able to see, but this is not what you're able to see in real time. The requirement is quite large, and because everybody wants to see their businesses, people want to move from the manual procedures of literally calculating what is the projection to tools who can do that for over here. So this is one of it that you would say in. And the data quality is the next one, which is has to be meeting your which I just said earlier, all of it, or which are these are your metrics which we have learned earlier, has to be met in your data quality in. And these are all the steps that you have in your data cleaning. So whatever is your database in, you would look at what is your dirty values in your data, which is nothing but null values or duplicated values and empty values, and all of that is completely deleted out. Then you look at what is really making sense from there, you prioritize them. You don't allow your bad data to completely come into your database. And once that is done, your data cleaning is all set to go in, and you're done with your data cleaning in. We would teach you data cleaning in detail, even using applying statistics in your year 2 and your year 3. I teach onto a module which is business intelligence, where you work with the data and you do this data cleaning in a detail in. And this is what I've just said earlier. Every time you do cleaning of your data, remember that if you don't do it, you will have your consequences from your business perspective. And if you don't have standardized formats being clearly defined, again, that gets reflected because your data is collected from multiple sources. So you see to that, you always have a standard one being prepared out. And these are some of the tools that we normally use for data cleaning. From here, I would say Open Refine, Data Ladder, Data Cleaner, Cloudingo, Refire, IBM Infosoft, Quality Stage. These are the ones we normally use than Wrangler and Drac and TIBCO. Than these, the other tools are what is being normally used in. So these are direct tools. You feed your data to it, it will automatically say these are all the values which is just not making sense, and you need to of course tell the problem statement that you're doing in, and you're able to find the insight in here. And these are your, so when you're initially doing, so first time when you work with the data set, we would be giving you Excel sheets. And that time, because that is not that you're doing automatically in the tool, you're doing as a manual one. First we learn manual, then we learn automatic tools to work with it. So initially you would learn that what are the things that you have to observe. So extra spaces, any kind of blank cells, any kind of numbers stored as text in. If you feel that there need to be as numbers, you would put it as numbered. You would remove duplicates. If you feel there is a plus E based math level errors, you can remove that. If you feel a text needs to be changed from lowercase to uppercase, you can do that. Check your spellings in. This is a very common one. You are trying to mean out, but a small spelling will have a different value to your attribute in, and do all of your formatting in here. Is this cleared out your data cleaning techniques? Any questions to this? Any questions in? Can I get response? Okay, so we have learned all of the steps, importance of it. So now we are concluding with importance overall in for your data that is being cleansed. So overall, all right, thank you, Ibrahim. So once your data is all cleansed, that means your data is all clear now, which means that nobody can directly play around in. You can prevent fraud, which is related to security in. You have a good data set which can be used, and your data is all in a particular format to go in. And you can manage your resources and your time better. And these are all the things which gets added out here if you're doing all of the steps which we have discussed so far rightly in place. And this is something Let me know if you're able to hear this video end. I'm just going to share it again.
How do you clean data? Well, the steps in cleaning data are parsing, correcting, standardizing, matching, and consolidating. So what is parsing? So parsing locates and identifies individual data elements in the source files and then isolates these data elements in the target files. And examples include parsing the first, middle, last name, street number, blah, blah, right? So if you have someone's name, right, you may need to white space parse it and separate it to first, middle, last name. Or if you have street name and street number and so on and so forth. Maybe comma, delimiter, dash, or pipe, or whatever. Correcting is fixing problems, right? So for example, you may need to fix a zip code or you may need to fix a misspelling or typo or whatever. Standardization means that you want to follow a standard set of rules for how things are formatted. Like maybe it must be 8 characters or it must be in this particular format, data format, and you have to move it to that format. Matching is basically searching and matching across these different, parse, corrected, and standardized data based on these predefined rules to eliminate duplication. So really the goal here is deduplication. And then consolidating, of course, is combining things into one representation, because there may be, once you've done all the previous stuff, you may find out that, hey, this can be represented rather than having like 5 or 6 different rows, I can just represent it through one row.
Is this cleared out? Yes? Okay. Okay. So before I go to the second part of the lecture, I know we have spoken so much about data in. Let's have a 10 minutes break and then we will start with the second part of it. The second part I want to show about data visualization in. So why do you have data visualization importance in some of the use cases? It's a very detailed one. So take a break and take a few minutes to think about what we have discussed so far, because I love this domain. So I want to see that you ask me questions over here as well. So take a few minutes, take a 10 minutes break, and then we will start with the second part of it. Okay. All right, I believe you're back from the break in. Are you back from the break? Great. Okay. So if you move to the second part, thank you, Leon. Just like I said, in the second part, you would learn about data visualization, which is about why do you have this importance of data visualization? What are some of the examples of data visualization? What are some of the tools and their use cases where all they have been utilized in? So we have looked at data cleaning, data quality, what are the types of data analytics that you have, and if you don't do what would happen, if you do what is going to happen. And we looked at what's the difference between data analysis and that of reporting in. So we have learned all of it, what the tools that you have in. And now we are going to visualize it. That is, we have loaded into our data warehouse. From here, now I'm trying to visualize my data in. So let's look at the second part in. So this is about graphical representation. So just like I told you earlier, in I have everything loaded into my data warehouse. From here, I'm trying to view in. So I'm trying to have a representation in here. If you look at the example over here, in this example, what is being done is this is for Brazilian development. And so they have a data set. So all that they are doing is, so this is done in Tableau, and we just need to, open a data set that we have, drag and drop the values out over here, and automatically we can visualize this data. We would do this live next weekend, so do not miss out in any ways or in any terms the class in, because this is going to be your baseline for your second year in. So we're going to see elements of charts, graphs, various types of maps available in. That's something that we would look in the next weekend. Now, what are the common types of data visualization that you can do in? So I can have visualizations done from very simple bar graphs, which you have already done in your Excel in. We have done pie charts in Excel as well. But what we are trying to do right now is I want to have more of the charts applicable in. I can have the view of the data onto a larger scale to go in. So I can do that using tools like that of Tableau. And so I'm going to have charts, I'm going to have tables, I'm going to have graphs, I'm going to have maps, I'm going to have infographics, and that of dashboards. And so all of this is going to be applicable in your data visualization. We would learn about various types of charts in a while. And these are all the types of methods to visualize your data. And so I can have an area chart, I can have a bar chart, I can have box and whisker, bubble cloud, your bullet graph, cartogram, circle view, dot distribution, Gantt chart, heat map, highlight table, histogram, matrix, network, polar area, radial tree, scatter plot, stream graph, text tables, timeline, tree map, word cloud. So many a times you must have seen that, sometimes in your slides and we put a word cloud to see what are the answers. That is also a visualization that we have. Yeah. So I'm the way that normally as a data analyst that they would do is they would not stick around with only bar chart, or they would not stick around with a scatter plot. They would say, okay, let me have a mix and match over here so that I can create a dashboard which has got all of these elements being added out. So this is how this is being done. And let's learn about each of the chart. And we are looking out over here, major charts in. And let's look at the first chart, which is your line graph that we have. So line graph is moreover as the data, or you could say it as it will display the change over the time over here. So as you have your x-axis and your y-axis in. So I want to see, suppose the trend in the sale of the houses that's going to be there. So house prices, have they increased over time or not? Definitely, I can view that using a line graph. And so when I have the values distributed out onto the horizontal and to the vertical end, I would use moreover the line graph, and I can compare the values. I can watch the trend which is happening out. Even in the Excel, if you right click, there is an option known as trend analysis. So once your graph is all plotted out, I can see the trend as well. The second one is your bar chart. When I want to have, or whenever I have categorical data, I would automatically use a bar chart. When I want to see product A being compared with product B over time, I would use a bar chart. And so whenever it is categorical data, try to use a bar chart in. And then you have your pie chart. When I want to display the data and statistics in a very easy, like a slice of it, I want to see, what is the kind of, like the example here, what's the kind of transportation that people are using to school, how many people are using bus, how many people are using walking, how many of them are using car, how many of them are using bicycle in. So these values are giving me over here the statistics and their proposition being received out in here. Then we have the histogram. When I want to show the frequency of a data set being there in, I want to show that what's the distribution that I have. That is, frequency is nothing but, if I want to see like an age group based analysis, I want to see how many people are fitting in the age from 10 to 15. Then I can say from 16 to 20, yeah, 21 to 30, and I can do a distribution. But it is a very similar to a bar, but this is a frequency based approach over here. So when the data is continuous, when you want to represent the shape as a distribution in, you want to see more than 2 or more outputs or processes out, you would use a histogram in. And then you have your scatter plot. A scatter plot is used when I want to find relationship between one variable to another, and that which means that what variable like sales is related to what in income wise in, and how can I have my one variable related to the other in, what relationship is something which I can draw out over here. Then I would use a scatter plot in, because if I want to get the sales in, it will be dependent on one of the variable in. So I would have to use a scatter plot in this case to go in. And then you have the Venn chart. When I have to see what's the distribution between two of it. Like over here, I have bird and that of the bat in. Both of them, what's the common aspect between them? Both of them have two legs. Both of them are vertebrate. Both of them are warm-blooded. I have four limbs being modified as wings over here. Yeah. But of course, there are two different of it. One is birds and the other one is bats. And so when I want to compare and when I want to have contrast of the things, when I want to use categorical or group items together to go in, I want to have some logical relationship between them, then I would use a Venn chart in. And then I have the area chart. This is a chart when I want to show, we have seen one variable to the other, we have seen categorical, we have seen frequency. But imagine if you have several things that you want to represent in one go to go in several quantities over time, then instead of using a line chart, I can also use a area chart. And so when I want to see the trend in specific values, I want to compare with the data set, and I want to see what is a small change in the categories that's happening in, I can always use a area chart. Now, I was just thinking, if anybody would ask me this question, how will I know what chart to be utilized when I'm using a automated tool like Tableau? So the speciality about Tableau, the tool, is that it automatically detects what is the kind of chart that you have. You still want to modify the chart, you can always do that. But by default, Tableau automatically has that. So it's much easier in this case. And then you have your spline chart, which is the most common type of graph that is used. And this is moreover using a lot of statistics, and it is trying to show what's the curve between various data points. So each of these points which you have, joining this leads into your curve when you have. So spline charts are used in designing Pareto charts. And when you want to support a lot of data modeling in, I can use that for that as well. I can estimate what is the values that you have over here. For this, definitely you would be using the spline chart. And then you have your box and whisker, which I love a lot in because over here, if you look at the example, there is math, there is literature. There are some scores given out over here. Based on these scores, it will try to have a statistical graph being generated out. It will try to tell me from math and literature what's the min, what's the max in, what's the median value in, what's the first quartile, what's the maximum quartile, and I can have and automatically. So if you could remember, earlier we looked at a problem set, and for the problem set we were told that analyze all these segments in, right? So the very similar to that, you can do that directly using a box and whisker, because it is allowing us to have a display of the entire distribution of the data. And then you have your bubble chart, which is a type of graph for making a comparison when you want to have the data, having distributed, but in the form of a bubble size over here. If you see over here, I have product A to that of your product G, but each of these products have been defined with unique colors in. So the color and the bubble size determines over here what's the size of it. What is, so like right now over here, I'm trying to see what's the profit. Immediately I can see that the bubble size of the product A is much bigger, which means that the product, or you could say the profit for this product, is much higher over here. So that's where you can use your bubble chart in. And then you have your radar chart. When you want to have multiple comparisons being done, that's where you would use your radar chart. So when you want to observe very deeply and minute of the values and then do a comparison. If I want to have some metrics as well added over here and then do that, I can do that as well. So like over here, I'm trying to do a radar chart for Jane and Samantha. These are all the metrics that you have. So I'm looking at punctuality, I'm looking at their problem solving skill, I'm looking at their meeting deadline, marketing knowledge, and communications. So if all of these, I can see that, when I look from Jane and that of the, Samantha in, who is doing well, by the way? Is Jane doing well, or is it Samantha doing well? Can you tell me? Is it Jane or is it Samantha? Who is doing well?
Jane.
Absolutely, it's Jane who is doing well out over here. Yeah, so you can see it gets projected outwards in, and that's how you normally determine who is doing well in. Good job. Any questions before I go to the examples of data visualization? Any questions? We have looked at so many charts. Yeah, line chart, bar chart, histogram, spline chart, box and whisker, area chart, radar chart. Any questions to any of the charts? I would ask all these questions in the next week because that's where you're going to work with your data set. Anybody, any questions? Can you respond?
No questions.
Okay. Right. So now we're going to work with job. Now we're going to work with examples of data visualization. Thank you, Amy. So whenever I'm going to start my visualization, so these are the few things, thank you, Ibrahim, that you have to remember: rows and columns, filters, pages, marks. Okay. So how I'm going to have all of this? This is nothing but the Tableau is going to do. And remember, I said when you're going to work in Tableau, Tableau automatically picks up the chart depending on your data set. And that's why this is the brain of Tableau, because automatically Tableau is able to detect depending on the data that you give in. So you are not doing a lot of it, but you can see that it detects that for you in here. So let's look it out an example in here. This is a demographic analysis done for region sales. And I'm able to see over here. What kind of chart is this, by the way? What is this chart? What is this chart? It's a pie chart, exactly. Okay. Now, here I also have sales and profit analysis being done. I also have street sales distribution out. Thank you, Shoaib and Ami. Yeah, so I can see here the distribution done. So I can have one graph generated on sales, one on profit analysis. Second is the sales distribution across the streets here. So I can have three graphs being generated out here. Yeah, please mute yourself. Now, whenever I want to work with a data set, we have learned so far, if you don't have a good data set, then nothing makes a sense completely in. So like over here, this is a UNICEF data in. I know this data is going to be a data which is going to be quite useful. It is from global databases. So definitely it's a good one to go in. Once I'm done with having my data set, my next step is I want to import and preview the data set. So I'm going to do that using the import feature in Tableau. I'm going to show this in the next weekend. Once this is done, I can view this data like this. Automatically, Tableau will say, okay, fine. I'm going to get some graphs for you generated out. And this is one of it. And this is just like, data being filtered for cause of death being there. So based on each of the country, what's the cause of death being there? And I can create dashboards. And what do you mean by a dashboard? From each of the graph towards the end, I can create a nice dashboard in which is a storyboard, I would say normally in a graph, several graphs combined together in one, which is one dashboard, which I have here. Like here, it's about dashboard for child mortality rate, causes of death by country, and all country data filtered by cause of death that I have. So which is something which I got earlier, but I can see onto my dashboard as well. So this is something that we can have in Tableau again in. And why do we have these visualization tools and their uses? One is that I don't want to, every time create new ones. I can view this data live to go and see what is happening with the past data. Since this data is from multiple sources, I can have the transformation seen. I can have the data with regards to location, and I can have the data all customized as well. And I can see that these reports can be embedded into several other applications, that is wherever I'm trying to utilize. Nowadays, even when students are creating mobile applications and they connect it to that of the Tableau and have the data viewed live as well. So that is one of the way that you can do it as well. Next is data mining can be used to see if any kind of patterns in, and from those patterns, if you're able to draw some trend out, that is also that you can use from the data visualization tools. And this is what I said earlier, business intelligence, that is nothing but this business intelligence and data visualizations are nothing but having a very close relationship to help the users to make informed decisions. Because if you don't have it related out in, you cannot have a good decision being done. And why data visualization and BI or business intelligence support is the way they can communicate, they can identify what's the pattern, what's the trend, what's the correlation between one variable to the other, and what can I have improved out to see what is a new opportunity for my data in. So that is also something which I can view in. And these are all the tools which you have available in the market for it, particularly in. From here, most commonly used is Power BI and that of Tableau. So these are the most common tools that we have in the market in. And this is your advantages and disadvantages. When I talk about advantages, a lot of it, you have connectors, you can visualize your data. The UI is so user friendly. It's all about drag and drop out over here, and it can process your data easily in, and it can support large community of users. But one disadvantage is if you don't have your training done properly in, then you will struggle with it because you're not able to visualize rightly in. So that is one of the disadvantage that you have. But if you are working with this data for a very good amount of time, that will not be a issue at all for you. So this is one of the example for day in the life of Americans. For the time at 8:04 a.m., if you see, this is a categorical data, slow, medium, and fast. And each dot over here represents a person, and each color represents the type of activity. So if you see at 8:04 a.m., I can see people are spending time on sports, leisure, or sleeping in still, personal care, eating and drinking, education, housework, household care, traveling in. So that I can have a quick visualization done. Looking at this, I can have a quick analysis and I can read this data easily. And this is what your managers really want out, because they don't want to look at your how have you done it like that. They just want to see, visualize everything. And this is one of the example. This is another example of the US budget 2016 being done. A data set taken, directly able to view this data in. This is another example for impact of vaccines done. And this is taken from Wall Street Journal. And you can see that how how many cases of polio introduced and what is that they were able to observe, why people were affected with polio. That's something that they were able to identify in here. This is another example for earth wind map. Yeah. So this is a representation over here, which you're able to see wind, weather, ocean conditions across the world. And this would keep changing every 3 hours. And yeah. So this is a map. And even if you go to your web page and try it out, you can see it out. You can see these maps that is happening in, and this is moreover again a data visualization. This is about in your NYC open data provided by them, and to see the quantity of street trees in New York, particularly in what are the type of trees that you have. So I was very happy to see this, in the sense so easily you can identify what kind of trees are being there in each of the streets in New York in the city of boroughs. Very good example to see in, and what trees are what is not there deficit in, and they can apply that more in to have, or where you can see now global warming is hitting around the globe. So what needs to be done, what needs to be performed out, that can be visualized in this way in. Any questions to what I've covered in the examples of data visualization? These are all the resources that we have taken for the second part of the lecture. Any questions? Is it clear? Any questions to anything and everything which is being taught in today's class? Yusuf, I have not heard at all from you today. Rhonda, yeah, Sri Sai, Khyati, Khushi. All right. Okay, so with this, we are done with the lecture component for week number 11. I believe everything is all clear, and I would discuss the goal questions on Thursday's session. And, today, if anybody has any feedback for the goal, I'm talking about the goals in. If anybody wants to do feedback for the goals in, let me know. Yeah. Yes, Alyan, I see your hand raised.
Ma'am, I need the feedback for the goals.
Yes, I'm going to give you that. Yes. It's on Thursday, Yusuf. Okay. All right. So yes, week 10 goals is what I'm giving you. I've already evaluated till week number 9, and it's already done. Only four students are which is pending, but otherwise the goals are evaluated till week number 9, already evaluated. Week number 10 goal submission is tonight, which means that you just have 2 more goals to be evaluated. Yeah, that's all from my end to go in. So I can see Uli Alyan is there for feedback. Anybody else there for feedback? For goals, Uli for goals. Sure. So in the meantime, I will just take the attendance. Azande is come for class today. Azande. No. Sokna has come for class. Sokna. Sokna. Yes, okay. Isa has come for class. Isa. No. Came. Davina. Okay. Bruce, Yan, Yusuf. Kushi, Sokna, Sri Sai. All right, so I've marked your attendance, and one thing which I was pending is this. Font. Hina Khyati. Me Sri Sai. So. All right. So your attendance is all marked in, even your Thursdays one is marked. This week you have your classes as normal. You have your Thursday session in, and there we would be working on to the goals, and your coursework feedback will be given out there. Yeah. So that will be your last feedback, moreover, for your coursework. With that, we are done. So I've given you already several feedbacks for your coursework. So see to that you work on those elements. Some of the groups which are not doing anything, I've clearly mentioned out in the sheet as well. So if you don't do it, you are going to have. So I can see some of the students who have not submitted the goals. I've already sent out email as well.
you will be definitely failing in. So be prepared to answer your resets that is going to be there. Okay. Okay, so with this, I would like to conclude the session with all the others, and those who are wanting feedback can stay back here. So I can see Alyan and that of Ibrahim who wanted feedback. Alyan, I'll give you access now and you can share the screen. Okay, Alyan, just check if you're able to access now. No, Aksha, I will be now giving the feedback on Thursday.
Yes, have you marked our goals yet? Because I can only see marking until week 4.
No, just like I said, Abdullah, 4, 5 students are still pending. I will be doing it by today.
Okay.
Alan, you can share your screen. Yes.
Can you
Can
see my
Yep.
screen?
Yes, yes. Scroll down. Okay, just a moment. Yes. Okay, go down.
The rectangle with the line through it.
Yeah, you can use that.
And can we use the same scenario for part A and part B?
So, how can you use like that?
Part B required, I think, level 2 and part A required level 1.
I told, if I'm not wrong, for part B alone is where I said that do 0, 1, and 2, right? But
So
have
if I
two
use the same
different.
scenario, I can do level 0, 1, and 2 and then answer all the questions.
Do it in the other way around. Do for, now he's done for both of it. Okay. For part A, you can do what? You can do just the scenario and write the answers to it. Part B, take another scenario, do level 0, level 1, and level 2. Is this clear, Abdullah?
Yes, miss.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Scroll down. Now you're doing level 2. So you picked upon 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Okay, remove this L2, L2, yeah?
Okay.
And when you're doing 2.1, definitely receive and validate request. Here also data stores are a must.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, go down. Right, go down. Good. Okay. Vehicle hiring system. Okay. Payment request, payment gateway. Okay, go down. Yeah, again, you're missing out on data stores, yeah?
Okay, okay, I'll add it.
And the numbering, yeah. So what you were numbering, you did in part A, you're missing out all on that of here.
Okay,
One, yeah, yeah. Next one, scroll down. Scroll down. Yeah, same numbering. Then you don't need to have it like level 202 connected to customer. You don't need to put it like that, okay?
okay, ma'am.
And don't forget your data stores.
Okay, ma'am.
So miss, I don't need to make a diagram for part A.
Part A is not required. Part B. Part B is where I said. Part B, level 0, level 1, level 2. Okay. Who's next? Ibrahim. Ibrahim, can you share your screen? Ibrahim. Ibrahim. Share the link. Level 0. Okay. Level 1. Good. Okay, I'll just share the screen. So if you see here, very detailed one, Ibrahim, good job for that. Only one correction which I have is, I think I've mentioned it in the class also when you were doing, data store notation is half rectangles and D1 comes like a line drawn. So use that as a notation. Okay. Level 2 is still pending. Level 2 is pending, okay? Is it clear? Where is it? Okay, okay. Where is it? So level 2, you said 3. Yes, please order. Okay. Yeah. Correct your notations, and there should be no cross lines. Like, where you have confirm order, total price, total price, you know, total price does not make sense. Calculate total price is there. Okay, no, this arrow is, you're saying confirm order until total price is sent to the customer. Okay. See that there is no overlap in the arrows. Okay. Is this clear, Ibrahim? Anybody else for feedback for the goals? Anybody else feedback for the goals? Great. All right, so then I'll see you on your Thursday session. So Thursday you'll be working on goals. That day I will also give you the link for installation of your Tableau tool is what I would do. And so with that, we're going to be done with your week number 11 in. Okay. So yeah, Alian also just wanted to pick up on, you said that there is information a little wrong onto the James Tyson Award. Can you confirm to me what is that, Alian?
Yes, ma'am. There was some, I think, date mistakes in the information.
You mean to say that the date is already crossed in?
Yeah, it says May, 11th May. The May is already passed. If you can check
No,
again.
that is only for the initial, that is just that just trying to get the, what do you say, giving you the context.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, the submission link is still open till July. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I've like filled the form for that.
Yeah, you filled and you submitted, right?
There was just the link for to fill the form, nothing else.
Okay. I'll just give it out. Give me that form, what you have filled,
I'll
and
share
I'll
it again.
share that. Kathy
I've
has
shared you a
completed.
snapshot.
Second. Okay. But the link is working, right? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it is working. It is working.
That information session is okay. That is okay. But
15th of July. So in the link that you filled in, were you able to submit something else than that?
No, just the information, my name and MIS, just it.
All right. So with this, I would like to conclude the session over here, and I'm going to see you on Thursday's session. Yeah. See you then. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.